Picture this. The year is 1882 and the desert of El Diente stretches out like God's own furnace. The sun beats down so hard it could melt the brass off a church bell. And riding through this wasteland, alone as a man can be, is Jack Moreau. Jack's 38 years old, but he looks 50. His beard's gone wild, his hat's pulled low to hide eyes that haven't seen peaceful sleep in months. This man's running from something, or maybe running toward his own grave. Hard to tell the difference out here. See, Jack used to be somebody. Fought in the war between the states, came home to a wife and a little boy. But war changes a man, and not always for the better. His wife Sarah took one look at what came back from those battlefields and decided she didn't recognize the stranger wearing her husband's face. She packed up their son Tommy and disappeared into the night, leaving Jack with nothing but a house full of ghosts and a heart full of lead. Now he's what you might call a drifter, takes odd jobs, guides folks across dangerous territory, sometimes tracks down wanted men for the bounty, but mostly he just rides, running from memories that chase him harder than any posse ever could. On this particular day, Jack's heading toward the Mexican border. He owes some bad men some money, and staying in one place too long ain't healthy for his continued breathing. The desert's his refuge now, a place where a man can disappear if he knows how to survive the heat and the silence. But the desert's got its own way of testing a man's soul. It's high noon when Jack sees something that stops him cold. There, maybe 100 yards off the trail, something white is fluttering in the wind. At first, he thinks it might be the bones of some poor soul who didn't make it across. Vultures circle overhead, and in this country they fly lower than the law. Jack's got half a mind to keep riding. In his experience, stopping to investigate usually leads to trouble. But something about that white shape tugs at him. Maybe it's the way it moves. Not like cloth or bone, but like it's alive. He turns his horse toward it, and as he gets closer, his blood runs cold. It's a woman's veil. A wedding veil, white as fresh snow, somehow still pristine despite the desert wind. And underneath it, barely visible above the sand, is a face. A woman's face. Sunburnt and cracked, but alive. Buried up to her neck, like some kind of horrible desert flower. Jack dismounts and runs to her. Her eyes flutter open, dark eyes fierce as a wildcat's but filled with pain. Her lips are cracked and bleeding, and when she tries to speak, only a whisper comes out. "Water," she manages. Jack pours precious water from his canteen onto her lips, and she drinks like a woman dying of thirst, which he figures she probably is. Then she looks up at him, and those dark eyes fix on his with an intensity that makes him step back. "They thought I knew," she whispers, her voice barely audible over the desert wind. "But now you know." And then she faints dead away. Jack stares down at this woman, this bride buried alive in the middle of nowhere, and realizes his simple plan to disappear has just gotten a whole lot more complicated. Because in the Old West, when you find someone buried to their neck in the desert, it usually means somebody wanted them gone permanent-like. And now, whether he likes it or not, Jack Moreau is about to become part of their story. Jack works fast, using his hands and a small shovel from his saddlebags to dig the woman out. The sand's been packed hard around her, and it's clear this wasn't some accident. Someone took their time burying her like this, deep enough to keep her trapped, shallow enough to let her suffer. As he digs, Jack can't help but notice things. Her dress, what's left of it, was once fine quality, real silk with pearl buttons. This isn't some poor farmer's daughter. Her hands, though scraped and bloodied, are soft. She's never worked a day in the fields. But it's her face that haunts him. Even sunburnt and desperate, she's got a strength about her. Her jaws set firm, and when she briefly opens her eyes during the rescue, there's no pleading in them, just calculation, like she's already planning her next move. When Jack finally pulls her free, she's weak but conscious. He wraps her in his spare blanket and helps her to his horse. "What's your name?" he asks. She studies him for a long moment, like she's deciding whether to trust him. "Ana," she finally says. "Ana Velasquez." The name hits Jack like a slap. Velasquez. He's heard that name before, whispered in cantinas and trading posts. Old General Velasquez, they called him, a Mexican revolutionary who disappeared years ago. Folks said he had a daughter, but she vanished too. "You're his daughter," Jack says. "It's not a question." Anna's eyes narrow. "You know my father?" "Know of him. Heard he was a man who fought for what he believed in. Heard he died for it too." Something flickers across Anna's face. Pain, maybe, or pride. "My father died fighting men like the ones who buried me. But his fight isn't over." Jack doesn't like the sound of that. In his experience, When someone talks about continuing dead men's fights, it usually means more people are going to end up dead. They ride toward the nearest town, San Pablo, maybe 3 hours south. Jack keeps checking over his shoulder, but the desert seems empty. Too empty. In country like this, empty usually means trouble's coming. As they ride, Anna tells him pieces of her story. How she was raised in a convent after her father died. How the nuns arranged her marriage to a powerful man, Colonel Mateo Salazar, a landowner who controls half the territory around the Mexican border. It was supposed to be a blessing, she says, her voice bitter as desert water. A chance for the bastard daughter of a revolutionary to marry into respectability. But Anna discovered that her arranged marriage was more than just a social climb. It was a business arrangement. Salazar was buying her silence about something she'd overheard, something about stolen land, murdered families, and judges who could be bought like cattle at market. I was young and stupid, Anna continues. I thought I could gather evidence, maybe find some honest lawman to take it to. But there aren't any honest lawmen in Salazar's territory. They're all on his payroll. Jack's jaw tightens. He's seen this before. Towns where the law serves the highest bidder instead of justice. Places where good folks learn to keep their heads down and their mouths shut. So they buried you alive to keep you quiet? Anna's laugh is sharp as broken glass. They buried me alive to make an example. Any woman who thinks she can speak against Colonel Salazar ends up decorating the desert. I wasn't the first, Jack. I was just the first to survive it. The words hit Jack harder than he expects. He spent so long running from his own demons that he'd forgotten what it feels like to be angry about someone else's suffering. But looking at this woman, this survivor who refused to die quiet, something long dormant stirs in his chest. As they approach San Pablo, Jack sees dust on the horizon. Riders coming fast, too fast for a casual patrol. Anna, he says quietly, how many people knew about your burial? Her face goes pale. Everyone who mattered. Why? Jack points to the dust cloud. Because I think they're coming to finish what they started. They spur their horses toward town, but Jack knows they won't make it in time. The riders are gaining and his horse is carrying double. In minutes, they'll be overtaken. But Anna surprises him. Instead of panic, her face shows fierce determination. There's a canyon ahead, she says. We can lose them in the rocks. You know this country? I grew up here, Jack. Every rock, every shadow. If you trust me, I can get us out of this. Jack looks at her. This woman who was buried alive and refused to stay dead, and makes a choice that will change everything. Lead the way. The canyon Anna leads them to is a maze of red rock and shadow. Ancient walls rise up on both sides, carved by wind and time into shapes that look almost human in the fading light. Jack's been through this territory before, but never this deep. This is Apache country, or was before the government moved the tribes to reservations. Anna guides them through passages so narrow their horses' flanks brush the stone. She moves with confidence, like she's ridden this path 100 times. But Jack notices something else in her movements, a kind of reverence, like she's walking through a church. My father brought me here as a child, she explains when they stop to rest in a hidden alcove. Before the soldiers came, before everything changed, the pursuit has fallen behind, but Jack knows they're not safe. Men like whoever's chasing them don't give up easy. They'll camp and wait, knowing that sooner or later their quarry has to come out. Why didn't you tell me you knew these canyons like the back of your hand? Jack asks. Anna's quiet for a moment. Because most men here I grew up with Apache friends and decide I'm either a savage or a liar. Figured you'd find out soon enough whether you could trust me. Jack studies her face in the dying light. Your father fought alongside the Apache? When it served his cause. The Apache taught him that the land doesn't belong to anyone. We belong to it. But Colonel Salazar and his friends, they think they can buy and sell the earth like it's a commodity. As night falls, they make a small fire in a cave Anna knows, one hidden from outside view. The walls are covered with ancient paintings, horses, hunters, storms, and stars. Jack runs his fingers over the images, feeling the weight of years and stories. The Apache who painted these, Anna says, they believed every story was sacred, even the painful ones, especially the painful ones. Is that why you can't let sleeping dogs lie? Jack asks. Because your story's sacred. Anna pokes at the fire with a stick, sending sparks dancing up toward the cave roof. I tried to let it lie, Jack. For 3 years after they buried me, I disappeared, changed my name, moved to different towns, tried to become someone else. But everywhere I went, I heard the same stories. More women missing, more families driven off their land, more good men found dead after asking the wrong questions. She looks at him with those fierce dark eyes. How many people have to die before someone says enough? Jack doesn't have an answer for that. He spent so long focused on his own pain that he'd forgotten other people were suffering too. But something about Anna's words cuts through the fog of self-pity he's been carrying. "What exactly did you hear that night?" he asks. "The night that got you buried?" Anna's face hardens. "I heard Salazar and his men planning something they called the clearance, a way to get rid of all the small landowners in the valley at once. They've been buying up properties for years, but some folks won't sell, so they decided to force them out." "How?" "Remember the Apache troubles 2 years back? The raids that killed dozens of settlers?" Jack nods. The whole territory had been up in arms about those attacks. "They weren't Apache raids, Jack. They were Salazar's men dressed up to look like Apache. They killed entire families, burned homesteads, and made sure everyone blamed the tribes. Then, when the surviving landowners were too scared to stay, Salazar's company swooped in and bought their land for pennies on the dollar." The revelation hits Jack like a physical blow. He'd heard about those raids, even seen some of the aftermath. The brutality had sickened him. Women and children scalped, homes burned to the ground. To think it was all theater, all for profit. "You're talking about mass murder," he says quietly. "I'm talking about genocide, Jack, and it's still happening. Every month more families disappear, more Indian troubles get reported, and Colonel Salazar gets richer." Jack stares into the fire, his mind reeling. He'd thought his own troubles were big, losing his family, his sense of purpose, but this woman's carrying the weight of an entire territory's suffering. Why didn't anyone else figure it out? Anna's laugh is bitter. Who's going to believe the bastard daughter of a dead revolutionary over a respected colonel? Who's going to investigate when the judges and sheriffs are all on his payroll? I had no proof, Jack. Just the word of a woman who'd already been branded a troublemaker. But you do have proof now. Anna reaches into her dress and pulls out something wrapped in oiled cloth. Inside is a small leather journal, filled with dates, names, and locations. "I spent 3 years gathering this. Every fake raid, every land transfer, every payoff. It's all here." Jack stares at the journal like it's a stick of dynamite, which in a way it is. "Anna, this could destroy Salazar. It could free this whole territory from his grip. It could also get us both killed," she replies. "Which is why they buried me alive when they suspected I had it, and why they'll never stop hunting us now." A sound from outside the cave makes them both freeze. Footsteps, careful and quiet, moving across the canyon floor. Their pursuers have found the cave. Jack draws his gun, but Anna puts a hand on his wrist. "There's another way out," she whispers, "but we have to go now." As they gather their things, Jack realizes something has changed in him. For the first time in years, he's not running from something, he's running toward something, toward justice, toward purpose, toward a fight that actually matters. But as they slip out the back of the cave into the desert night, Jack knows their real troubles are just beginning. Dawn breaks over San Pablo like a promise that might be broken. Jack and Anna ride into town on a borrowed horse. Theirs gave out during the night chase. They're dusty, exhausted, and running on nothing but determination and bad coffee. San Pablo used to be a thriving border town. Jack remembers it from years back. Bustling cantinas, busy trading posts, children playing in the streets. Now it looks like a town that's forgotten how to hope. The buildings are well maintained, but the people move with their heads down. Nobody makes eye contact. Nobody talks louder than a whisper. "Salazar's town," Anna explains as they tie up their horse. "He owns everything here, the bank, the general store, the cantina. Even the church gets its money from him." Jack notices the way people look at Anna, quick, frightened glances before they hurry away. Word travels fast in small towns, and everyone knows she's supposed to be dead. They head to the cantina, hoping to blend in and gather information. But the moment they walk through the batwing doors, the place goes quiet as a graveyard. The bartender, a heavy-set man with worried eyes, looks like he's seen a ghost. "Ana Velasquez," he breathes. "They said you were dead?" Anna's voice carries across the silent room. "Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated." An old woman in the corner starts to weep. "Mia," she whispers, "they told us you died in a riding accident. We had a funeral mass for you." Anna's composure cracks slightly. "Doña Carmen, I'm sorry. I couldn't let anyone know I was alive. It would have put you all in danger." "More danger than we're already in?" The voice comes from a man sitting alone at a corner table. Jack recognizes the look. A broken man, the kind who's lost everything and has nothing left to lose. "Diego." Anna approaches him cautiously. "Diego Morales, what happened to you?" Diego looks up, and Jack sees his face is scarred, his left hand missing 2 fingers. "Same thing that happens to anyone who asks too many questions around here. They came for my family, Anna. Said we were harboring Apache sympathizers, killed my wife, my 2 boys, left me alive to spread the word about what happens to troublemakers. The cantina is so quiet Jack can hear his own heartbeat. Ana kneels beside Diego's chair, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. If I had spoken up sooner, it wouldn't have mattered, Diego says. They own everyone, the sheriff, the judge, even the preacher. Anyone who stands up to them ends up dead or broken. An old man near the bar speaks up. It's true, señorita. In the last 2 years, we've lost 43 families, all to Indian raids or accidents or mysterious disappearances. But we know the truth. We just can't prove it. Ana stands up, pulling the leather journal from her dress. Maybe I can. The effect is immediate. Everyone in the cantina leans forward, hope flickering in their eyes for the first time in who knows how long. What is that? Doña Carmen asks. Evidence, Ana says simply. Names, dates, locations, everything they've done for the past 3 years, everything they're planning to do. Diego's scarred face shows the first sign of life Jack's seen in it. You mean we can fight back? We can try, but it won't be easy and it won't be safe. They'll come for anyone who helps us. They're already coming for us, the bartender says. Every day we live in fear is another day we're not really living at all. Jack watches the transformation in the room. These aren't broken people. They're people who've been pressed down, waiting for someone to remind them they can stand up. But their moment of hope is interrupted by the sound of horses outside, many horses. Ana moves to the window and peers through the dusty glass. Her face goes pale. It's Salazar, he's here. Through the window, Jack can see a dozen armed men surrounding the cantina. At their head is a man in an immaculate white suit, Colonel Mateo Salazar himself. Even from a distance, Jack can see he's the kind of man who's never had to question his own power. Back door? Jack asks. The bartender shakes his head. They'll have it covered. When Salazar comes calling, he comes prepared. Ana straightens up, her face set with determination. Then we face him. Ana, no, Jack grabs her arm, and that's suicide. She looks at him with those fierce dark eyes. Jack, I've been dead for 3 years. I'm not going back to that grave. Before Jack can stop her, Ana walks to the cantina doors and pushes them open. She steps out into the dusty street like she's walking to her own execution. Hello, Mateo, she calls out. Miss me? Colonel Salazar sits his horse like a king on a throne. His smile is cold as winter moonlight. My dear Ana, when I heard reports of your resurrection, I had to see for myself. You always were a stubborn girl. Stubborn enough to survive being buried alive. Stubborn enough to gather evidence of your crimes. Stubborn enough to make sure the whole world knows what you've done. Salazar's smile doesn't waver, but Jack catches the slight tightening around his eyes. Evidence, my dear girl, you've been dead for 3 years. Anything you think you know is ancient history. Ana pulls out the journal. This says different. For the first time, Salazar's composure cracks. He signals to his men and they raise their rifles. So you should have stayed buried, Ana, he says quietly. Now I'll have to bury this whole town with you. The standoff lasts maybe 10 seconds, but it feels like 10 years. Ana, standing in the dusty street, journal in hand, facing down a dozen armed men. Jack, behind her, hand on his gun, knowing they're outnumbered 6 to 1. The townspeople watching from windows and doorways, holding their breath. Then something unexpected happens. Diego Morales steps out of the cantina. This broken man with the scarred face and missing fingers walks up beside Ana, empty hands at his sides. You missed one when you killed my family, he tells Salazar, and that one's got nothing left to lose. Doña Carmen emerges next, her old bones creaking but her back straight as a rifle barrel. You killed my grandson in one of your fake Apache raids. Time to pay for that. One by one, the townspeople step into the street. The bartender, the general store owner, the blacksmith, even the young woman who runs the boarding house. Soon there are 20 people standing behind Ana, unarmed but unafraid. Salazar's confidence wavers. He'd come to kill 2 people quietly, but murdering half a town in broad daylight is different. Even his corrupt judges would have trouble covering that up. You're all making a mistake, he says, but his voice has lost its authority. I own this town. I own all of you. No, Ana says, her voice carrying across the street like a bell. You terrorized this town. You murdered its people. You stole their land and their hope, but you never owned them, and you never owned me. She holds up the journal. This contains the names of every family you've murdered, every acre you've stolen, every official you've bribed, every crime you've committed, and copies of it are already on their way to the territorial capital, to the federal marshals, to newspapers in 3 states. It's a bluff. Jack knows it, and probably Salazar knows it too, but it's a good bluff delivered with such conviction that doubt flickers across the colonel's face. Even if that's true, Salazar says, you'll be dead before any of it matters. Maybe, but I won't be the only one who dies today. And when the territorial marshals investigate the massacre of San Pablo, they'll find that journal. They'll know exactly who to blame. Jack watches the calculation in Salazar's eyes. The colonel's smart enough to know when a situation has spiraled beyond his control. He's also smart enough to know when to retreat and regroup. This isn't over, Anna, he says, reining his horse around. You can't hide behind these people forever. I'm not hiding, Mateo. I'm making a stand. And every day I'm alive is another day your secrets spread further. Salazar signals his men, and they ride out of town, leaving nothing but dust and the promise of future violence. The townspeople don't celebrate. They know this is just the beginning of their troubles, but something fundamental has changed. For the first time in years, they remember what it feels like to stand up straight. That evening, they gather in the cantina to plan. The journal Anna carries is their weapon, but it's only useful if they can get it to the right people. The territorial capital is 200 miles away through dangerous country. The federal marshals are even further. I'll go, Jack says. I know the trails, know how to travel fast and quiet. Anna shakes her head. They'll be watching for you now. Any stranger leaving town will be followed. Then what do you suggest? Anna looks around the room at the faces of people who've decided to trust her with their lives. We don't run. We make our stand here. Force them to come to us. That's suicide, Diego says. Salazar's got 50 men, maybe more. We've got 20 townspeople, most of whom have never fired a gun in anger. We've got something else, Anna replies. We've got the truth, and sometimes that's enough. Jack wants to argue, but he sees something in the faces around him that stops him. These people have been beaten down for so long, they'd forgotten what hope looked like. Now they remember, and sometimes hope is more dangerous than any weapon. Over the next week, word spreads through the territory like wildfire. The story of the woman who was buried alive and came back to accuse her killers. The journal that contains proof of crimes everyone suspected, but no one could prove. The town that decided to make a stand. People start arriving in San Pablo. Families who've lost loved ones to Salazar's fake Apache raids. Farmers who've been driven off their land. Former lawmen who quit rather than take Salazar's money. Even a few Apache who've heard the story and want to see justice for the crimes committed in their name. The town begins to transform. Barricades go up. Weapons are cleaned and ammunition is counted. But more importantly, people start sharing their stories. The weight of years of silence and fear begins to lift. Jack finds himself changed by it. For the first time since he lost his family, he's part of something bigger than his own pain. These people's fight has become his fight. But he knows Salazar won't wait much longer. A man like that can't afford to let defiance go unanswered. The attack will come soon, and when it does, many of the good people of San Pablo will die. The question is whether their sacrifice will mean something. 3 days later, as the sun sets over the desert, the lookouts spot dust on the horizon. A lot of dust. Salazar is coming with his full force. The attack comes at dawn, just as Jack knew it would. Salazar's the type of man who likes his symbolism, the darkness before the light, the old order dying as the new day begins. Except in his mind, he's the new day, and people like Anna are the darkness. From the barricades, Jack can see them coming. 50 riders spread out in a line, moving slow and deliberate across the desert floor. They're not trying to hide. This is meant to be a statement, a massacre that will be talked about for years. The townspeople are positioned throughout San Pablo, some behind the barricades, others in second-story windows, a few in the church bell tower. They're scared. Jack can see it in their faces, but they're not running. That's something, at least. Anna stands beside him, checking the load in her rifle. She's different now than the woman he pulled from the desert. Harder, maybe, but also more complete. Like she's finally become who she was always meant to be. Any regrets? Jack asks. She considers the question. I regret that it came to this. I regret that good people are going to die today, but I don't regret fighting back. Some things are worth dying for. What about living for them? Anna smiles, and for a moment she looks like the young woman she should have been, before the world taught her to be hard. That's what we're doing, Jack. Everything we do today, we do it so other people can live free. The first shot comes from Salazar himself. He's positioned his men just outside rifle range and fires into the air, a signal that parley time is over. People of San Pablo, his voice carries across the desert morning, you have one chance to save yourselves. Send out Ana Velasquez and the stranger who's been helping her. Everyone else can walk away. Diego Morales calls back from the church tower. We already walked away from fear, Colonel. We're not going back. Salazar's response is immediate. He signals his men and they charge. The battle that follows isn't like the stories you hear around campfires. It's not glorious or heroic. It's desperate and ugly and full of the kind of mistakes that get good people killed. The townspeople fight like cornered animals because that's what they are. They don't have military training or fancy weapons, but they have something Salazar's men don't. They're fighting for their homes, their families, their right to exist. Jack finds himself swept up in the violence, moving from position to position, trying to shore up weak points in their defense. His military training comes back to him: how to read a battlefield, how to anticipate enemy movements, how to stay alive when everyone around you is trying to kill you. But this isn't the war he remembers. This is personal. Every face in the attacking force belongs to someone who's been terrorizing these people for years. Every shot he fires is for Diego's murdered family, for the children who died in fake Apache raids, for all the small injustices that added up to this moment. The fight rages for hours. The sun climbs higher, turning the desert into a furnace. Men die on both sides, good men who deserved better than to bleed out in the dust of a frontier town. By noon, it's clear that the townspeople can't hold out much longer. They're running low on ammunition, and Salazar's men have managed to breach the eastern barricade. It's only a matter of time. That's when the unexpected happens. A new dust cloud appears on the horizon, but this one's coming from the north. As it gets closer, Jack can make out the blue uniforms of cavalry soldiers, a full company, riding hard towards San Pablo. Salazar sees them too. He calls for his men to fall back, but it's too late. The cavalry spreads out, surrounding the town and trapping Salazar's force between the townspeople and federal law. The officer in charge rides forward under a flag of truce. He's a young captain with serious eyes and the kind of face that's seen too much for his age. "I'm Captain Morrison, Territorial Cavalry," he announces. "I'm here with warrants for the arrest of Colonel Mateo Salazar and his associates on charges of murder, land fraud, and conspiracy." Anna steps forward, pulling the journal from her dress. "Captain, I believe this belongs to you." Morrison takes the journal and flips through it, his expression growing darker with each page. "How did you manage to gather all this?" "By staying alive when I was supposed to die," Anna replies, "and by finding people willing to help me tell the truth. The trials that follow make headlines across the country. Salazar and his men are convicted on dozens of charges. The stolen land is returned to its rightful owners. The corrupt officials are removed from office. Justice, for once, actually gets served. But the real victory isn't in the courtroom. It's in the way San Pablo changes. The town remembers how to hope again. Children play in the streets. People look each other in the eye. The cantina stays open late, filled with laughter and conversation. Jack stays for the trials, partly because his testimony is needed, but mostly because he's not ready to leave yet. For the first time in years, he feels like he belongs somewhere. 6 months after the trials, Jack Moreau finds himself doing something he never thought he'd do again. He's building a future. The carpenter's shop in San Pablo isn't much to look at yet. Just 4 walls and a roof, with sawhorses for tables and tools he's slowly accumulating. But it's his, bought with the reward money the territorial government paid for bringing down Salazar's operation. Say it's honest work, and it keeps his hands busy, building things instead of destroying them, creating instead of running away. Anna stops by most afternoons. She's been appointed as a territorial administrator, helping to redistribute the stolen lands and rebuild the communities Salazar destroyed. It's work that suits her, using her fierce intelligence and intimate knowledge of the territory to heal the wounds of the past 3 years. Today she brings coffee and news from the capital. They sit on the porch of his shop, watching the desert sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. "Remember when you asked me what I was fighting for?" Anna says. Jack nods. "You said it was about living free. I've been thinking about that, about what freedom actually means." She pauses, choosing her words carefully. "I think I was wrong. It's not just about being free from something. It's about being free to become something." "What do you want to become?" Anna smiles, and it's the first truly peaceful smile Jack's seen from her. Happy, maybe. It's been so long since I even considered that as a possibility. They sit in comfortable silence, watching the last light fade from the desert. In the distance, Jack can see the glow of other settlements, communities that are growing again now that the shadow of fear has lifted. "I got a letter from my son," Jack says suddenly. Anna looks at him with surprise. "Your son? I didn't know you'd been in contact." "I haven't been. Not for 3 years. But word travels, even to where he and his mother settled in Colorado. He heard about what happened here, about me helping to bring down Salazar. Says he's proud of me." Jack's voice cracks slightly. Says he wants to come visit. Anna reaches over and squeezes his hand. That's wonderful, Jack. Is it? I don't know how to be a father anymore. Don't know if I deserve the chance to try again. The man who pulled me out of that desert, who stood with this town against impossible odds, that man deserves a chance to be happy. Your son seems to think so too. Jack studies her face in the dying light. What about you? Any word from your past? Anna shakes her head. The nuns who raised me are all gone. My father's old revolutionary friends are scattered or dead, but maybe that's for the best. Maybe it's time to stop living in the past and start building something new. A comfortable silence settles between them. They've both been through hell, both lost pieces of themselves along the way. But sitting here, watching the desert come alive with evening sounds, Jack feels something he hasn't felt in years: contentment. The Apache have been asking about you, Anna says eventually. Asking what? Whether you'd consider working as a liaison, someone to help bridge the gap between their communities and the territorial government. You know their ways, and they respect what you did here. Jack considers this. It would mean traveling again, but not running, working towards something instead of away from it. What do you think? I think you'd be good at it, and I think it would be good for you. What about us? The words slip out before Jack can stop them. Anna turns to look at him directly. What about us? I mean, Jack struggles with words that have been building inside him for months. I know we came together because of circumstances, because of danger and necessity, but now that all that's over, now that it's over, we get to choose, Anna finishes. We get to decide what we want our lives to look like. And what do you want? Anna stands up and walks to the edge of the porch, looking out at the desert that nearly killed her but ultimately set her free. I want to keep fighting, but for different things now. For growth instead of survival. For hope instead of revenge. She turns back to him. And I want to do it with someone who understands the cost of both fighting and healing. Jack joins her at the railing. The territorial work you're doing, there's a lot of travel involved. There is. And this liaison position with the Apache, that would mean moving around quite a bit too. It would. They look at each other, and Jack sees his own thoughts reflected in Anna's eyes. Two people who've learned to be alone, wondering if they remember how to be together. We could travel together sometimes, Anna suggests. Your work and mine overlap in a lot of places. It would be unconventional. Everything about us has been unconventional. Jack laughs, and it feels good. True. A woman buried alive and a broken-down ex-soldier. Not exactly a traditional courtship. Nothing traditional about love that grows in the desert, Anna replies. But maybe that makes it stronger. The word hangs between them. Love. Neither of them has said it before, but it's been there, growing quietly in the spaces between danger and trust, between survival and hope. Anna, Jack says quietly. Yes? When my son comes to visit, I'd like you to meet him. Her smile is radiant. I'd like that too. As full darkness settles over San Pablo, they head inside together. Not because they're running from anything, but because they're moving towards something, toward a future neither of them could have imagined when they first met in the desert. 3 weeks later, Jack's son Tommy arrives on the morning stage. He's 15 now, tall and serious, with his mother's green eyes and Jack's stubborn chin. He looks around San Pablo with the careful gaze of someone who's learned not to trust easily. Jack waits on the platform, his heart hammering like a blacksmith's anvil. 3 years is a long time in a young man's life. He wonders if Tommy will even recognize him. But when the boy steps down from the stage, he walks straight to Jack without hesitation. Pa, he says simply. Tommy. Jack wants to grab his son and hold him tight, but something in the boy's posture warns him to go slow. You've grown. Some? Tommy shoulders his travel bag and looks around the town. This the place where you made your stand? This is it. Tommy nods approvingly. Ma said you finally found something worth fighting for. They walk through town together, and Jack finds himself seeing San Pablo through his son's eyes. The new buildings going up, the children playing safely in the streets, the sense of community that's grown from shared struggle. It's not much compared to Denver, where Tommy's been living, but it's real in a way that matters. Anna joins them for dinner at the boarding house. Jack watches nervously as she and Tommy size each other up. His son has his mother's gift for reading people, and Anna's been dealing with suspicious townspeople for months. They circle each other conversationally like two cats deciding whether to fight or be friends. Pa says you're the one who had the evidence that brought down Salazar, Tommy says. Your father's the one who pulled me out of the desert and stood with me when it mattered, Anna replies. Evidence is just paper. Courage is what makes it count. Tommy considers this. Ma says Pa lost his way after the war. Says the man who came home wasn't the same man who left. Anna glances at Jack, then back at Tommy. I think maybe your father didn't lose his way. I think he just needed to find a new path. You think he's found it? I think he's still walking it, but he's not walking it alone anymore. That night, Jack and Tommy sit on the porch of the carpenter shop, listening to the desert night sounds. It's the first time they've been alone together in 3 years, and Jack doesn't know where to start. "Ma remarried," Tommy says suddenly. The words hit Jack like a physical blow, but he tries not to show it. "She tell you to tell me that?" "No. She said it wasn't my business to carry messages between you two, but I figured you should know." Jack absorbs this. Part of him had always held on to the hope that someday, somehow, he could win his family back. Now that hope is officially dead. "Is he good to you?" Jack asks. "The new man?" "He's decent. Doesn't drink too much, doesn't raise his hand, provides well. Ma seems content." "Content. Not happy," Jack notices, but content. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's more than he ever gave her. "So I'm glad," he says, and discovers he means it. She deserves to be happy. "What about you?" Tommy asks. "You sweet on Miss Anna?" Jack almost chokes on his coffee. "You certainly don't mince words. Learned that from you. Before the war, you always said the shortest distance between 2 points was a straight line." "And what do you think about Anna?" Tommy's quiet for a long moment. "I think she's the kind of woman who'd die for what she believes in. I think she's strong enough to stand beside you without leaning on you, and I think she makes you remember who you used to be." "Is that good or bad?" "Depends on whether you like who you used to be." Jack looks at his son, really looks at him. Somewhere along the way, Tommy stopped being a child and started being a young man. A thoughtful, perceptive young man who sees more than Jack gives him credit for. "I used to be someone who believed in things," Jack says slowly. "Someone who thought he could make a difference. The war took that away from me for a while. And now? Now I'm learning that maybe I can't change the whole world, but I can change my little corner of it." Tommy nods. "That's what Anna said when I asked her the same question." "You asked her about me?" "Asked her what she saw in a broken-down ex-soldier with more regrets than prospects." Jack winces. "And what did she say?" "She said she saw a man who'd rather do the right thing and fail than do nothing and succeed. She said that's the kind of man worth believing in." They sit in comfortable silence, father and son finding their way back to each other across the gap of years and hurt. "I was thinking," Tommy says eventually, "maybe I could stay for the summer, help you with the carpentry business, learn the trade." "What about school?" "Ma's already talked to the territorial educator. Says I can make up the credits in the fall. Besides, there are things you can't learn in a classroom." Jack feels something tight in his chest loosen for the first time in years. "I'd like that, son. I'd like that very much." "Good. Because Anna says this territory is going to need a lot of building in the coming years. Might be room for a father-son carpentry business." "She said that, did she?" Tommy grins, and for a moment he looks exactly like he did at 5 years old before the world got complicated. "She says a lot of things, most of them worth listening to." The news comes with the dawn. A rider from the territorial capital, his horse lathered with sweat and exhaustion. Anna takes the message on the steps of the courthouse, and Jack watches her face go pale as she reads. "What is it?" he asks. Anna looks up, her dark eyes filled with a mixture of anger and determination he remembers from their first days together. "Salazar's escaped." The words hit the gathered crowd like a thunderclap. Salazar had been sentenced to hang, locked up tight in the territorial prison. The idea that he could simply walk free seems impossible. "How?" Diego Morales demands. His face shows the old fear creeping back in, the terror of a man who's lost everything once and can't bear to lose again. Anna reads from the message. "Prison break 3 nights ago. 6 men dead, including the warden. Salazar and 12 of his associates are free. Authorities believe they're heading back to this territory." Jack feels his stomach drop. They'd all thought it was over. They'd begun to believe in safety, in the possibility of peace. Now that illusion is shattered. "He'll come for you first," Tommy says quietly. "For what you did to him." Anna nods grimly. "He'll come for all of us. Everyone who stood against him, everyone who testified. He can't rebuild his empire with us still alive to expose him." The townspeople begin to panic. Some talk of fleeing, others of sending for the cavalry again. But Jack can see in their faces that the old fear is taking hold. The courage they'd found 6 months ago feels fragile now, threatened by the return of their nightmare. "We fought him once," Doña Carmen says, but her voice shakes. "We can fight him again." "Can we?" The blacksmith shakes his head. "Half our men are gone, moved away or back to their families. The ones who stayed are tired, older, and Salazar knows our defenses now." Jack sees the community they've built starting to fracture under the weight of renewed fear. Everything they've accomplished, the healing, the hope, the sense of belonging, it's all hanging by a thread. That's when Anna does something that reminds Jack why he fell in love with her. She climbs onto the courthouse steps so everyone can see her, and when she speaks, her voice carries across the square with absolute certainty. "You're right to be afraid," she says. "Salazar is dangerous and he's coming for us, but look around you. Look at what we've built here in the past 6 months." She gestures to the new buildings, the thriving businesses, the children playing in streets that used to be empty from fear. "We didn't just defeat Salazar," Anna continues. "We replaced him, we built something better, and that something is worth defending." "Easy words from someone who can just ride away when things get hard," someone calls out. Anna's eyes flash. "You think I can just ride away? This is my home now, these are my people. I've got as much to lose as any of you." She pulls out a folded paper from her pocket. "I received another message this morning from the territorial governor. He's offering me a position as federal marshal for this entire region. Good pay, federal protection, a chance to leave all this behind and start fresh somewhere safe," the crowd murmurs. It's clearly an attractive offer, the kind that could set someone up for life. "But I'm not taking it," Anna says firmly, "because running away isn't living, it's just surviving, and I'm done just surviving." Jack feels a surge of pride and love so strong it almost knocks him off his feet. This woman, who's been buried alive and hunted across the desert, is choosing to stay and fight rather than accept safety. "What are you proposing?" Diego asks. "I'm proposing we finish what we started. We don't just defend against Salazar, we end him, permanently, so our children never have to be afraid of him again." "How?" Anna's smile is sharp as a blade. "The same way we beat him before, with the truth, but this time we make sure he can never escape it." Jack steps forward. "What do you need?" "I need people willing to trust me one more time. I need fighters willing to take a risk for something bigger than themselves. And I need someone I can count on to watch my back." Jack doesn't hesitate. "You've got me." Tommy steps up beside his father. "You've got both of us." One by one, the townspeople make their choice. Diego, despite his fear. Doña Carmen, despite her age. The bartender, the shopkeeper, even the young mother with 2 small children. Not everyone stays. Some families pack up and leave that very day, and Jack doesn't blame them. They've already sacrificed enough. But enough stay to matter, enough to fight. As the sun sets over San Pablo, Anna outlines her plan. It's dangerous, maybe suicidal, but it's also the kind of bold stroke that could end Salazar's threat once and for all. "He's expecting us to run or hide," she explains. "He's not expecting us to hunt him." Jack listens to the details and realizes Anna's right. It's exactly the kind of plan Salazar won't see coming, which might be the only reason it could work. "When do we start?" he asks. Anna looks at the people gathered around her, scarred, frightened, but determined. Her people, her family. "Tomorrow," she says, "at dawn, we end this." The final confrontation doesn't happen where anyone expects it. Anna's plan is brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of waiting for Salazar to come to them, they draw him to a place of their choosing, the same canyon where Jack and Anna first hid from his men, the place where ancient Apache paintings watch over the desert like silent guardians. They spend 2 days preparing, setting up positions, planning escape routes, making sure everyone knows their role. Jack's military experience proves invaluable, but it's Anna's intimate knowledge of the terrain that gives them their real advantage. The bait is Anna herself. Word is spread through the territory that she's hiding in the canyon, alone and afraid. Salazar's pride won't let him resist the chance to finish what he started, to bury her properly this time. What he doesn't know is that the canyon has become a trap. They come at dawn, just as Jack predicted. Salazar rides at the head of 20 men, confident and arrogant. He's dressed in that same immaculate white suit, like he's attending a social function instead of planning a murder. Jack watches from his position high on the canyon wall, Tommy beside him with a rifle he's learned to use well over the past weeks. The boy's hands are steady, his face calm. Jack feels a mixture of pride and sorrow, proud of his son's courage, sad that the world has forced a 15-year-old to learn how to kill. Planet waits in the center of the canyon, seemingly alone and vulnerable. But Jack knows that 24 rifles are trained on the approaching riders from positions throughout the rocks. "Ana Velázquez!" Salazar's voice echoes off the canyon walls. At last, no more running, no more hiding behind other people's courage. Anna stands up slowly, and Jack can see the fear in her posture, but he can also see the determination. She's been afraid before, when they buried her in the desert, when they hunted her across the territory. Fear hasn't stopped her yet. "Hello, Mateo," she calls back. "Come to finish your work. Come to clean up loose ends." Salazar dismounts, his men spreading out behind him in a loose semicircle. "You should have taken that federal marshal position, should have disappeared into a comfortable new life." And let you continue murdering innocent families? I don't think so. Salazar's smile is cold as winter starlight. Such noble sentiments. But nobility doesn't stop bullets, my dear. That's when Anna does something that stops Jack's heart. She pulls out her journal, the real one, not a copy, and holds it up. You want this so badly, she says. Come and take it. Salazar signals his men, and they raise their weapons. And that's when the canyon explodes into gunfire. The fight is brief but vicious. Salazar's men are caught in a crossfire they never saw coming. Some try to run, others try to fight. But the townspeople of San Pablo have learned hard lessons about survival. When the smoke clears, most of Salazar's men are dead or wounded. Salazar himself stands in the center of the canyon, his white suit stained with dust and blood, surrounded by people who have every reason to want him dead. Tayo could have been a queen, he tells Anna bitterly. I offered you everything, wealth, position, respect. Instead, you chose to crawl in the dirt with these peasants. Anna walks up to him, close enough that he could grab her if he wanted to try. You offered me a cage, Mateo. A pretty cage, but still a cage. These people offered me something you never understood. Freedom. Freedom? Salazar laughs, but there's no humor in it. Look around you. Look at what your freedom has bought. Death, violence, loss. Was it worth it? Anna considers the question seriously. Ask me in 20 years, when the children of this territory grow up without fear, when families can work their land without wondering if they'll be murdered for it, when people can speak the truth without being buried alive for it. She looks around at the faces surrounding them. Jack, Tommy, Diego, all the others who chose to stand and fight. Yes, she says finally, it was worth it. The territorial marshals arrive 3 hours later, summoned by riders Anna had sent out before the fight began. They take Salazar into custody, this time with enough security to ensure he won't escape again. As the sun sets over the canyon, Jack and Anna walk among the ancient paintings on the cave walls. The images seem different now somehow. Not just records of the past, but promises for the future. Do you think it's really over? Tommy asks, joining them. This part is, Anna says. But there will always be men like Salazar. People who think power means the right to hurt others. Then what's the point? Tommy's voice carries the weariness of someone who's seen too much violence for his age. Anna points to one of the paintings, an image of people gathered around a fire sharing food and stories. The point is that there are more good people than bad ones. The point is that when good people stand together, they're stronger than any tyrant. Jack puts his arm around his son's shoulders. The point is that some things are worth fighting for, and some things are worth building. 6 months later, Jack Moreau marries Ana Velasquez in the little church of San Pablo. The whole town turns out for the celebration, along with Apache friends, territorial officials, and even a few former enemies who've decided to choose peace over violence. Tommy serves as his father's best man, and during his speech at the reception, he says something that brings tears to Jack's eyes. My pa spent a lot of years thinking he was broken, Tommy tells the gathered crowd, but he wasn't broken. He was just waiting for the right person to remind him who he really was. Later, as the celebration winds down, Jack and Anna walk out into the desert together, the same desert where he found her buried to her neck, whispering words that changed everything. Any regrets? Jack asks. Echoing the question from their first battle, Anna considers this, looking out at the vast expanse of stars above them. I regret the people we lost. I regret the pain it took to get here. But I don't regret fighting. I don't regret surviving. And I don't regret finding you. Jack kisses her under the desert stars, and for the first time in years the future feels like something to look forward to, instead of something to fear. The desert remembers everything. The violence and the healing, the fear and the courage, the love that grows in impossible places. And sometimes, if you listen carefully to the wind across the sand, you can still hear Anna's whisper from that first day. They thought I knew, but now you know. Now they all know. The truth has a way of surviving, even when people try to bury it, and sometimes that's enough to change everything.